Greetings, ladies and melogents, and welcome to this latest edition of Read TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called I Do Not Understand, written by kenesisiscool. Zonal uttered these words as a slow-moving black vehicle trekked its way through a strange field. She stared out of the window, but addressed the statement to the single human in the passenger section of the vehicle. The field was covered in stones that had clearly been shaped by artificial means. Her claws tightly clasped the ceramic pot in her lap, as her confusion mounted. What don't you understand? As the appointed representative, I am happy to answer any questions about whatever you want. This is a historic event, after all. He spoke to them in a recognizable, if heavily accented, version of their own tongue. An impressive feat, considering that the two species hadn't even known of the other's existence just over 10 years ago. Zonal looked to her three companions. She could tell that they also had questions. Their dorsal feathers were twitching gently, but as she had been designated as keeper, they were forbidden to speak until the ceremony was finished. What I don't understand, formal communicator, is why you take us through the stone forest. Where are the crowds of adulators, the monument to be built in the sub-navigator Jun's honor? He is a hero. Why is he not being honored as such? She asked, her plumage, what was left of it, rising to show her displeasure as well as her confusion. She thought back to the events of the previous month. She had been the sub-commander of the ship Frozen Plumage. Their mission was simple: official transportation of goods that the Zurian government deemed necessary. A trading vessel. Nothing out of the ordinary, but there was something different and special about this voyage. A human had become part of the crew. As a gesture of goodwill between the Zurian people and the humans' people, it had been decided that a select few members of each species would serve minor positions within the other's respective governments, hopefully fostering friendship and understanding of one another's culture. Jun Watanabe had been their representative human. It had been very difficult to work with him at the beginning. It was frustrating not being able to speak without a machine translator nearby. Not only that, the human did not even have feathers. How was she supposed to understand the nuance of his words without anything to judge them by? Jun was the sub-navigator of the Frozen Plumage, a position given to trainees, but he'd been good at his job. Zonal had not known sub-navigator Jun well, but they interacted in an official capacity regularly, since she was in command of the sub-bridge where he was stationed. She had heard him introducing games from his homeworld that other members of the crew had fallen in love with. Chess, Go, and poker, they were apparently called. She had admitted to herself a burning curiosity about them, but it would not do for a member of the command to be seen socializing with a trainee. But the way the crew talked about these games made her hum with curiosity. What if? It's a graveyard, not a stone forest. This is the most common way for us to inter our dead. Each stone out there is called a headstone, stated the formal communicator, pulling Zonal out of her memory. Her companions all looked out the window in stunned amazement. Each of these stones carried a body. You do not give them back to nature. You do not have a formal location to give them back. Surely, eventually, you'll have no more room to keep your dead. She asked the formal communicator incredulously. He responded carefully. We do have some few select locations for that, but the most part we either do this or incinerate the bodies. Bodies? Humans were barbarians. These were the honored dead, to be kept alive in the memory of the people they knew and their hatchlings, not to be forgotten in some stone field. Barbarians. Zonal had once thought much the same about Jun. He had refused to eat his prey alive. The beast had actually demanded that it be skinned and heated to nearly burnt before he would touch it. His fellows explained that would ruin the flavor and destroy the soul of the prey. But he would have it no other way. Concessions had to be made for the sake of the good political relations. They'd been nearly 2 months into their assigned transportation. The sub-command crew was in the mess for their morning hunt. It was a good way to prepare for the work. By chasing down your designated prey and quickly gobbling it down, it sharpened the senses and reminded you that nature is still present, even in the Everblack that stay between the worlds and stars. Only Sub-Navigator Jun had not gotten his prey yet, still not capable of catching the elusive rodent on his own. Just as Zonal was about to take pity on him and catch the prey for him, the whole ship shook and the lights flickered. The sub-command crew flew to their stations. Jun several seconds behind the rest of them, as he was simply not fast. Zonal had already tried to reach command, only to receive a report that a hidden ship had fired upon their own. Their first salvo had completely destroyed command, leaving all critical ship functions in control of the sub-command. The ship shuddered again as she was trying to gain control of the situation. Flames shot out of the vents, burning every creature in the room. Each Zurian instantly dropped to the floor in an attempt to put out their burning feathers. The only one standing was Sub-Navigator Jun. His thick skin had kept the worst of the damage off of him. He quickly grabbed an extinguisher and put out the rest of the crew. The crew all put on emergency breathing masks, as it was clear that life support had been damaged. With the ship crippled, they all heard the distinct sound of magnetic clamps reverberating throughout the ship. The pirates were docking. Zonal ordered 3 of the 6 crew to stay on sub-command and do what they could to manage the situation. Sub-Navigator Jun, the quartermaster, and herself went to the emergency armory. With the ability to fly lost, it became apparent that Sub-Navigator Jun was now the quickest in the group. Once the weapons had been obtained, they rushed to the breach point, passing by several wounded or dead crew. Most of them were on fire or smoldering. Sub-Navigator Jun reached the breach nearly half a minute before Quartermaster or herself did. What they saw shocked them. Up until this point, she had looked down on the humans, even pitied them a bit. They couldn't catch their own prey, after all. But what she saw Sub-Navigator Jun doing in that hall would stay burned in her memory until after she had her last molt. His big, dopey-looking body was picking up the pirate Zurians and breaking them easily. With every punch, a Zurian would fly into a wall or ceiling, and it wouldn't get back up. His kicks had such strength that Zonal could see the bodies of the pirates fold around his leg and feet before the rest of it was flung away. Also amazing to the sub-commander was his sheer endurance. He had clearly killed nearly a dozen of them by the time herself and the quartermaster arrived, and didn't slow down at all until it was over. The pirates, of course, didn't take his assault lying down. They had repeatedly shot at him with their fire rifles, but they only left angry red marks on his body, whereas a normal Zurian would have been lit up like a torch, an almost guaranteed death. Once a shrapnel discus had been thrown into the hole straight at Sub-Navigator Jun, showing incredible dexterity and reflexes, the human just grabbed the discus and flung it back into the hole that it had come from before it exploded. No more fire came from that direction. Nearly on his own, Sub-Navigator Jun had cleared out the invading pirates. He looked at Zonal and the quartermaster. He said something that she couldn't understand and pointed back the way they came. Then, with what he had come to understand since as a smile, he rushed into the pirate ship. No one knew what happened exactly on that ship, but soon it detached from its forced dock and drifted away, before exploding into nothingness. An eternal part of the Everblack now. He had saved the ship and those few that were still alive on it. Which brought us back to the black vehicle and the formal communicator. The vehicle pulled to a stop. You still have not answered my second question. Where is the crowd of adulators? Where is the monument? To the glory of Sub-Navigator Jun Watanabe should be sung for centuries. Hatchlings should be brought to it as a shining beacon of what your species could be. He is a hero and deserves a hero's burial. Zonal spoke with a great deal of passion. Her 3 companions ruffled their breast feathers in agreement. The doors opened, and a sad group of humans stood waiting for them, dressed in black. The formal communicator stepped out of the car and gestured for the Zurians to do the same. He spoke softly. Yes, Jun Watanabe is a hero, and that is why we are burying him here. He gestured to the area. This section of the graveyard was nothing but rows upon rows of simple white headstones, as the formal communicator had called them. Unlike other parts of the graveyard, they were all white with minimal variation among them. He continued, Jun Watanabe was a soldier, a veteran who volunteered for the position. Every single grave here is a grave of a hero. If we made monuments to every hero who died to save others, we truly would run out of space. As it is, we keep a simple ceremony and make a note in history. His death has helped foster a greater alliance between our peoples. It will not be forgotten. The formal communicator spoke the words so simply, so directly. Zernal was unsure that she had spoken them correctly. She and her companions looked out at the field. There were white stones nearly as far as the eye could see.
This is where you inter all of your species' greatest heroes?
She asked with incredulity. There were so many. Her people had only a few hundred for their entire history. They had to memorize their names for the second molting. The formal communicator twisted his face. It was like a smile, but not. No, not all. This is only for the people who were born in the local area. There are tens of thousands of sites like this across the planet. The ceremony was small, quiet, and dignified. The loudest portion was the ceremonial death screech that Zinel had performed, to let sub-navigator Jun Watanabe know the right direction to the Eternal Eyrie, where he could roost in peace. On the right side, Zernal numbly looked out the window of the passing graves. All of these were heroes. Perhaps the Zurians had made stronger allies than their leadership believed. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.